let's get back to basics.
Thanks everyone for joining us with our, I think it's our second or third webinar. Fantastic to have you along. It's obviously a gorgeous day outside, so we'll try and get through this as quickly as possible. This is, you know, a webinar for you guys. So if you have any questions or any comments along the way, there's a Q&A section down the bottom. There's also chat and things like that. But if you use the Q&A, one of my colleagues, David Canizo, will be monitoring that. And I'll just allow him to pipe up if we hear anything. But what we'll be doing is going through more of the platform today. Obviously, I've done this a few times with you. Whether or not you've been on previous calls, I'm not too sure. But what we'll be doing is going through it. I don't want to go through all of it in the same level of detail as what I have previously. So if there's areas that you'd like me to focus in on, please let me know. I've had a bunch of emails and calls and messages over the last few weeks about different areas. So web pages was a call this morning. We've spoken about roles and tasks as well, so we can delve into those areas as we go. But yeah, please fire away for any questions and answers that we can really focus in on. David, thanks for joining us. If you could keep an eye on the Q&A and pipe up when needed, that'd be great. So without further ado, I'll just go over to our demonstration site. This might be looking at a little bit more advanced than your accounts. Hopefully you've all got access into your accounts now. If you've had any trouble gaining access, please let us know in the support channels and we'll help you get on board. So I suppose we'll start at the start. First thing is inviting other administrators, so other people to help. The more hands you have, the lighter the load. So inviting additional administrators is the name of the game, which is just going into admins and roles on the left-hand side here, clicking this invite admin button and writing in the email of the individual that you want to add. David at TidyHQ, for example, .com. I can give him full access. If David just needs to get, you know, tasks done and needs to understand who's in the club and those sorts of things, we can start to take areas off him. So he doesn't need to have access to finances. He doesn't need to be involved with creating meetings. He just needs to be part of the meetings. So we can take that away. He doesn't need access to storage or even settings. We do want him to help maintain the web pages and update the shop items, so we'll let him have access to those things. Then we can send an invite out to David, which he can then accept and get on. What we want to be doing though is using personal email addresses. So even this one isn't great because it's a work email address. What we'd rather is personal email addresses because people change jobs. If we're using generic club email addresses, we're tying individuals to generic club email addresses. So it becomes unstuck because the committee turns over every year or two. So ideally, you're using personal email addresses to invite administrators. The next section across is roles. So this is where you put in all your committee structures and things like that. I'm sure a lot of you have gone through various programs with the league, with Terry Dillon Solutions or Sports Community or any of the other consultants. And obviously committee structures is a critical part of being successful off the field. This is where you drop in those roles that you're creating as part of that structure. And within each of these roles, we're dropping in all of their responsibilities, their objectives, responsibilities, relationships that they need to have or maintain, and who they're accountable to. As a broad, that's what I do. You can do it your own way, but drop that in for each of the roles that you have at your organisation. I think the league was putting out a few default roles as well, so you'll have a few in there already. But you can add as many roles as you want, and you can obviously adjust this to suit your club. We've just put in some generic ones for you with some generic text, but please feel free to adjust it and edit it to suit your football club. As you go through, you can see that, well, you know, the president's currently Jordan. Actually, it's now David, once he accepts that invite. So I can instantly drop him into this role of president. I can also allow for messaging. So if an email gets sent to president and at this email address, an email will automatically get forwarded to David's personal email account. So the goal when we built this was actually not to provide administrators another email inbox, because I had too many. I still have too many, and I didn't want another one. So this way we're just forwarding it on to whatever their personal email address is. The advantage, of course, is that as soon as someone changes role, as soon as David resigns as president and Isaac slots into the position, email will automatically start going to the new person's role, and it all filters through Tidy. So it all gets captured and recorded in Tidy. So you have that communication in there. So it's really good for generic club communication, really simple and straightforward. The one caveat, of course, is when it needs to be private communication, so contract negotiations or things like that, in which case, in my case, I'd use my personal email address and things like that to carry on those sorts of conversations, because it is a communal inbox that we're trying to build here to help delegate and create transparency within how you're operating things. So that's how we set up all the roles. That's how we invite all the administrators in. If you are at the AGM, which I know some of you have had or are about to have, you can print off all these roles and carry it along to the AGM, so you can instantly see who the president is, vice president, and so you can hand this out. You can print it all out, hand it out, so people that are putting their hand up or getting pulled on to the committee can have a pretty clear understanding as to what they can expect from the positions. So that's administrators and roles. Like I said, the left-hand menu here is probably looking a little bit more full than what you've got out of the box. To find some of these additional functions like meetings and events and what have you, we go into the apps section. So in the apps section, you'll find a bunch of tools, events, meetings, memberships, integrations with MailChimp, Zoom, and Sports TG. So you can flick all of these on with the agreement with AFL Outer East. You have access to everything. So you can switch on as many or as few as you like. So if you don't want to use us to sell things in the shop, you don't have to. You just don't have to switch that on. If you've already got a UV membership system, then you don't need to use ours. So you can, it's completely optional as to what areas you'd like to use here. I know many of you have already integrated with Sports TG. This will automatically sync across all of your players into Tidy. It's a one-way integration, so it goes from STG into Tidy, and each time there's new players registered, it'll push them over into your TidyHQ account, and it make it easier for communication and those sorts of things. There is a bit of a handshake involved with it, so we need to authenticate that you are the legitimate, have legitimate access to that Sports CG account before we start, or before Sports CG lets the data flow. But if you go through that bit of a handshake process with us and our support team, we'll have that syncing pretty quickly for you all. There's a bunch of other apps in here as well, which we'll go through in due course. I thought I'd just cover a few of them today with you. The dashboard's obviously a place where everyone has access to. Depending on your permissions, you'll see different things. So if you didn't have finances permissions, so David, for example, who we just invited, doesn't have finance permissions, he doesn't get to see this income box. He doesn't get to see how much income's coming through the club and those sorts of things. This is the calendar view. So a heads-up display as to what's going on around the place. Once you start populating things, obviously the calendar starts getting populated as well. So you can start to see what meetings are coming up, what invoices, tasks, all those sorts of things that you want to get everyone on the same page so everyone sort of knows what the left and right hand are doing. Another area which, once you get to Sports CG connected, this will obviously automatically populate with all of your players. The integration is only working with this current season, just gone. So it's only the 2020 season, which for some of you isn't completely populated with players because of what we've gone through. But it will sync across all 2020 players and obviously for next year, 2021 players and everyone in that STG account. Some of the cool features, which I won't go into too deep, but we have advanced filtering in here, which means that what you can do is filter contacts based on a criteria. So, for example, I want to, let's have Sports CG. This could be a really poor example. Let's say contain. Actually, I don't have any Sports CG people connected, so that won't work. Let's have a look. So contact details, I want to know everyone that has an occupation of sales, for example. No one has that occupation. Brilliant. That's probably a poor example. Let's try something easy. First name is David. So we're going to filter all the Davids here. So we've got 2 Davids in here. So I can save this as a smart group. So anyone new that's coming in that has the name David will automatically be dropped into a smart group called Davids, meaning that we can communicate really quickly just to that segment. So this becomes more interesting when you're collecting things like first aid certificates, working with children certificates, age groups as well. So lots of the junior clubs use it for age, so date of birth and things like that. So you can really segment your data and say, hey guys, we want to communicate something to all the juniors that are looking to go into seniors to try and get them down for training or what have you. You can segment based on birth date and all sorts of other things as well. You can also filter on all these custom fields, which I'll go into in a moment, but you can have as many of these custom fields as you like. So let's just say we want to filter out all the vegetarians or vegans. And there's this one chap, he's the vegan, so we'll save him as the smart group. There's always one. So we'll save him into a smart group called vegans or vegos, and we can communicate directly to them as well. So that's contacts. Contacts, you can have up to 1 million contacts. If any of you have more than 1 million contacts, I'll be thoroughly impressed. But broadly speaking, that means it's unlimited for you, which makes it really, really easy. You can obviously find people quickly up the top here. I'll just remove that filter. So you can find people this way. Type in their name. You can type in anything else that might appear as part of these filters as well. So the idea here is that all these different spreadsheets that we have all over the place to run these football netball clubs can all be imported into one place that you can filter out. Some of the other examples that I had was that I would group people based on what years they played or premiership years that they were in. So for reunions and things like that, I'd tag Isaac in the 2008 premiership side. So when it came to the reunion, it'd be really easy just to send an email out to all the premiership players and things like that. We'll just go to events because a few of you are looking to use our events. I brought up a club, I don't think they're in your league, to just illustrate one of the events that they've got or had going recently. So this is a 2009 Premiership 10-year reunion. Really easy, upload your image. It's important to get a high resolution image if you can, because it really makes a difference with the quality of the event page when I show you in a second. Having a lower res photo, so these guys had this photo here, and you'll be able to see that it's fairly low resolution, so it doesn't end up looking nearly as good as perhaps it should. If you use a higher quality photo, it'll look a hell of a lot better. Start and end dates are pretty self-explanatory. What time it starts, expected to finish, the location of the event and things like that, which should all appear. Description of the event, which is fairly self-explanatory, who's coming, why they should come, and all those sorts of things. A schedule for the day. So I'm going to watch the league win a game, awards, DJ, entertainment, etc. You can sell tickets here as well, so past player or guest tickets. What you can also do here is have member-specific. I'll get into memberships in a moment because a few of you have asked about that. But in effect, you can have tickets that are only available to specific people. So gold members, and these are only $5 because it's part of the membership perks that they get discounted tickets to some of the social events. So you can drop that in here as well. Finance categories. So this is a bit like chart of accounts, but we make it far more simple. And I'll show you that in a moment as well with the setup. But this is doing the treasurer's job for them as well. So we can drop in any money that comes from this event. It'll be dropped into the finance category called events. We can collect additional attendee information for this event, like what player number they had or something like that. We can make that optional if we want. So if I save this, and I'll just show you what it looks like. So just quickly, and this is the club that had it going on, and let me just find it for us. Their website doesn't work, which is always good. I'll try and find it. This is why having a good website helps. It's easy to find things. I can't find it. Very good. This is why Panthers social events, perhaps. Here we go. So this is how they were advertising it. They were saying, come along and all the rest of it. It's just a flyer on the wall, basically, or please contact this fellow to get more information, which is good. But it could be nicer to send everyone to an event page and have them register and buy a ticket. Obviously, past player events could be a bit different, but this could equally apply for corporate lunches or golf days or quiz nights or anything else that you need to be selling tickets for, that you want to present something really well and automate the registration of people. So that's events going into that. Just quickly, I'll circle back into organization settings. So when you first set it up, you want to be going through the organization settings just to tick all the boxes and make sure everything's set up okay. So to start with, organization details. So this is just the name of your club, the TidyHQ domain. So this is the demo.tidyhq. You might have churnside.tidyhq or afloutereast.tidyhq or what have you. You can adjust that based on availability, of course. Update all these sorts of bits and pieces as well. You can upload your logo here. You can adjust your color scheme as well. So if you are, gold or what have you, you can drop that in and you can see what it's going to look like on the web pages as well. So you don't do something really bright. So some people do this, which makes it very hard to see. Don't do that. Try and pick a color that's going to be make sense for people and they'll be able to read it fairly well. Next, I'll show you payment settings. So we use Stripe as our payment gateway. So all that is connecting to a Stripe account. Creating a Stripe account, if you don't have one already, takes about 4 or 5 minutes. It's just a matter of entering all your club's information. Obviously, you should have it on hand, whether you've got a ABN or similar sort of number. or BSB number, account number, all the things that your treasurer or president should have on you. You can register for that. If you don't have an ABN, Stripe will still accept you because you're a non-profit with it all. Other areas that I'll just quickly go through: activity feed. So activity feed is a running log of everything that everyone's doing in your platform. So this is the audit trail. So if David goes in there and he starts messing things up, we can sort of see what's going on. You can see here that I've recently updated settings and logos and what have you, updated the event. I added an administrator, David, etc., etc. I can see everything that's happening with this. I can see when people register for Christmas events or what have you. It's all in the activity feed. I'll skip over enterprise settings because it's not really relevant for yourselves. Contact numbers, again, I don't think it's overly important for you guys, but some organizations want to keep a contact number or membership number for these groups. Up to you. I'd say most footy clubs don't need to do it, but you can generate new IDs for everyone that comes through the door. Custom fields, this is where we start to get a bit juicy. So, for example, you can create as many of these custom fields as you want, as I said earlier. They can be all sorts of custom fields, so date types or files if you want people to upload files. Single line of text, we can have a group of check boxes. So parent help, for example, I want to know which area a parent is willing to help us with, so they can pick the ones that they want. You can move these around and adjust them and all those sorts of things. So you can pick that up, and there's also helper text here. Which area are you able to help with? So I can save that. Creating a custom field is just at the top right here, new custom field. So I can say past player, or are you a past player? So I want to make this a radio button. So a radio button is one or the other, can't be both. So it's a yes or no. Pretty simple. I can adjust the visibility. So visible to administrators only. So some custom fields you may not want Joe Public to edit themselves. So good example is coach accreditation. So I want to keep a track of David's coach accreditation or his umpire accreditation or what have you. You can keep that sort of information in here and only have it visible to administrators, for example. Or you may want to illustrate it out to David that, hey, your coach accreditation expires on this date, or you're a level 2 or what have you, but it's read only. So he can't edit that himself. If he disputes it or debates it, he's got to get in touch with you to adjust it accordingly. And lastly, we've got public profile. So it's available for David to update and adjust whenever he needs. He can go into his profile and adjust this accordingly. So we'll make that public. Like I said, you can have as many of these fields as you want. You can move this up and down if you think it's more important or what have you. Lots of clubs use this in lots of different ways. So you can see in this demonstration site, there's lots of examples. What role would you like on the committee? What hospital someone prefers? Hopefully not too relevant for footy clubs, but could be. First aid certificates, CPR certificates, partners' names, all sorts of things. You can let your imagination go wild with all the different custom fields that you can add in here to collect as much information as you want. Date, time, currency, I think will be fairly self-explanatory for everyone. Hopefully it'll be already set up fairly well for you. Financial calendar is the important thing for the footy clubs. So most footy clubs, I think, go January through December as the financial calendar. Some do different things. So some go through from December through November and things like that. So you can tweak this to whatever your football club chooses. That'll obviously have a bearing on the financial reporting in the finances area. Finance settings, so this is talking about GST, so you can probably leave that as default. Invoices, expenses and deposits, so organisation number, your ABN perhaps, or when the next invoice number starts from. Footer information, you can drop in BSB and account number if you want into this payment information. It could also be thanks for supporting the club in 2020 or things of that nature as well in here. And finally, we've got finance categories. So again, you can have as many of these finance categories as you want. So for example, we could have another category called events, past player events, for example. And so I can have as many of these fields as I want. Like I said, I can start to have subcategories by just using a naming convention here with it all. If I just refresh this, I can do all this sort of stuff. So this is predominantly for financial reporting, to categorize your money. Memberships, which I'll delve back into in a moment. So memberships, waivers, this is just default membership information. For specific membership, in each membership level, you can really articulate each of them differently. So this is just the default for all new membership levels that you're creating. As an option, we do have digital membership cards, which may or may not be piquing your interest. But we're happy to turn those on for you. It isn't something that we've released more broadly. So if that's something that you'd like to play with, get in touch with us and we can switch that on for you. I've covered those two. And finally, web page settings. So this is what your homepage will look like. Again, upload an image. You can have a footer organisation tagline. You know, we love to kick the footy. Social tagline, if you've got a hashtag for your club, you can drop that in here as well. And broadly speaking, some information that we want to publish on our webpage, and you can make it visible to public search engines or not, up to you. You can also switch on a contact us page. So this is totally optional. You can enable it or disable it. You can choose to drop on a map, which will pull the address from the organisation details. Displaying contact emails. So some of you have experienced this and some of you are yet to experience it. But as soon as you put your email address online, as soon as you put your phone number online, you're attracting spam. And we've seen it. I've experienced it a lot. When I was president, I'd get spammed most weeks by everyone from Indian cricket ball manufacturers to Coca-Cola. So I actually advise against putting your contact details on here if you can, because it does tend to attract those sorts of things. But it is an option. I know a lot of, say, junior clubs genuinely want to or need to put contact details on there, so you can do that if you like. Finally, sponsors. So you can upload as many of these sponsors logos as you want as well, which will appear in various places. I'll just delve into memberships and web pages, unless there's some really specific areas as well that we want to cover off on. Maybe we'll go into tasks as well. So memberships. So another example from our friends, the Panthers, was memberships. So a lot of footy clubs are kind of like this. Obviously, all the player memberships are happening through Sports CG or Footy Web. So that's being handled. But the past player or corporate type members is something like this. Download a membership application. You've got to handwrite it or somehow scan it back in and email it back. And it's all very cumbersome, shall we say. What we can do, so the reason that I built the membership system was for exactly this reason. I wanted to get more people as members, especially past players and parents and things like that, into it. So setting up a membership's relatively simple. what we do is we set up a new membership level. We can drop in let's just go with this, Panthers 300 Club. I'll drop in their information. Where's their 300 Club? Here we go. We'll get all this drawn up. We can make this look prettier afterwards. If we really want, we can choose a cover image as well. So we'll use this low res one again for it. We can have the plan type. So this could be rolling or fixed. So this is the date time. So it could be rolling date period. So it rolls from today or whenever they purchase it for, let's make it 12 months, just to make it easy. So this membership will roll from 12 months from the date of purchase, or you can have it fixed. So it'll roll for 12 months from, let's say, the 20th of January. And it will expire just before the 20th of January. Generally speaking, I try not to use December 31 and 1st of January because no one's looking at your membership on the 1st of January. I hate to break it to you. They're off doing more important things like going to the beach or spending time with family or recovering from the night before. So I'd often say, set your membership just beyond it, say 20th of Jan or something of that nature. We have individual or family memberships here, so you can choose multiple pricing for adults and children and all those sorts of things. We'll just stick with individual for the time being. How much it's going to cost. So how much was this one? $300, of course. We're going to drop it into the membership category. So this is doing the treasurer's job for them. We can automatically renew these people. So every 12 months, we're going to send a notice to David saying, hey, mate, thanks for your membership. We're going to renew you again for another $300 for the next 12 months. So it'll automatically do that job for you. Membership fields. So this is your registration form. So this is where you can select all of these custom fields that we went through. So for example, past player was one of them. I want that as a required field in my registration form because I want to know who played for the club and who's just supporting the club and things like that. Maybe I want to check what company they work for, their date of birth. Maybe I want to make sure I understand their dietary requirements, so to help with catering in the future. All those sorts of things I can add to my registration form, optional or required. Fields, I can move them up and down as well. I can have this waiver, release and indemnification if that's something that you guys need to do. So you can drop all that in here as well. If you call it something else, you can call it something else. To the list of stuff, you can put in whatever you like here. We can ignore this share with for the time being. You don't need to share information to anyone, so ignore that area, which you shouldn't see anyway. Welcome messages. So here you can say, let's welcome first name. So welcome David to the 300 Club, etc., etc., etc. So you can write in whatever you like here. These are merge tags, so you can personalize it a little bit here if you want. So welcome Isaac to the footy club, etc. So you can put in whatever you like here. We can also have the end date. So if we really want, we can do things like that. We can also send renewal reminders. So you have a fairly good handle on all of these sorts of things. So you can send a renewal reminder, 20 days before the membership expires. You can adjust the text in here as to what they're going to see. Again, you can personalize it. We can add another reminder if they're really not getting the message 5 days before the membership expires to sign back up again. If they successfully renew, we can send out this message. If it expires, they fail to renew, we can send out this message. And if it does expire, we can send another reminder 5 days post the expiration saying, hey, David, come on, man. You sure you don't support us anymore? And again, you can adjust that copy there as well. And you can have another one if you really want to hassle them. You can put in a few more. We leave it at 3 because then I think you're just getting annoying. So we drop in those there. If you've got an administrator that's just looking after the 300 up club, let's say it's our old mate David. Whoops. I can drop him in here. So David will get an email for every member that signs up to the 300 club. The idea being David can personally call him and welcome him or her to the fold. Other option could be for insurance and those sorts of things, which may be important to you depending on what sort of membership it is and what you're doing with that membership. Lastly, you can adjust visibility. So I want this to go out to the public. For life memberships and things like that, keep them as admin only. So only administrators can add people and see life memberships. You don't want life members, anyone signing up for it. Some of you are using Facebook to advertise memberships. If you are doing that, you can use Facebook Pixel ID for tracking the success of those campaigns for you. So you can drop that in there. Digital cards as well. So again, this won't be a setting for all of you, but if that's something that is really interesting to you, then we can enable that so you can switch it on and adjust it. What this is doing is allowing Isaac to add a digital membership card to his iPhone wallet or Android wallet. So it'll say, I'm a member of the 300 club at the Panthers Football Club. So if I just save this one really quickly. So this is the URL that I can now share out to Facebook or wherever it might be. So this is a low resolution image. Like I said, doesn't look nearly as good as a high resolution one. So make sure that's a good quality one. This is all the value. And then you just go through and register. Is it for me or for someone else? I can drop all this information in here. Am I a past player? So I can see these are required fields. This is the help text that I dropped in there as well. So I can go through, put in, agree to my waiver, agree to the long list of stuff, because that's what I decided to call it, and go through and get to payment. So payment is credit card. If you've got people that insist on a invoice or insist on paying by bank or check or contra something or other, we can also do that. So if you just hit new membership up here and we pick the 300 club, and I can pick up Isaac, for example. Actually, let's pick up David. I'm really smashing him today. Is he a past player? Yes, he's Meat Eater or Easter. Sounds nicer. First of the first. How old are you, David? 1953, something like that. Is that right? And you can then send him an invoice, or if he's paying now, you can drop in his card details, or if he's paid by check or bank transfer or what have you, you can register that here as well. Or we can just send him an invoice. So we can say invoice is due on the 19th of January. Let's make that December. And we can complete that. And David will have an invoice in his inbox when he next checks it. I hope that's worked. So there we go. So David's now a member. He's regarded as a partial member until he completely pays the invoice. And we can chase him up for that $300 with it all. So that's all been tracked now in the membership section for you. Next, I'll get into web pages. So some of you already have a U-Butte web page. Others not so much. What we recognise is that football clubs don't need an all singing, all dancing website. They need something fairly simple, easy to maintain, because the token tech nerd tends to roll over at some point out of the committee. So you need something that's maintainable regardless of the personality or skill set that's in the club. So, but it needs to look good. It needs to work well. It especially needs to work well on mobile, because nearly 80% of people going to football club websites on our sites are on mobile. So it needs to be responsive. But broadly speaking, a web page for a footy club is just a portal to get to the next thing, to buy that event ticket for the past players, what have you, or buy the membership, or etc., or find out where you're playing. So really quickly, very simple to set up these web pages. So this is pulling up the home image. So drop in your image, the information that you have here. So this is our home page. We can have sponsors in here. So that's your sponsors block, which is pulling the images from that sponsors area in the organization settings. We can have an events block. So these are the latest events that are coming up. We can have an announcement block at the top, which I'll show you in a moment. Be More Dog announcement. And we're going to link out to a YouTube video for this one, for whatever reason. And then we can customize social media settings. So if we want to have it look a specific way for our social media when we share it to Facebook or Twitter, you can upload the actual image of your club that you want to have show up as a preview, as you know, when you post something to a Facebook wall or what have you. So you can do all that sort of stuff. So just quickly, I'll just show you what it looks like. So this is what we're doing. Be More Dog announcement. This is the gold color that I set up before. If I click on here, it'll link out to a YouTube video for Being More Dog, which, if you haven't seen the ad,
I used to be a cat.
Go see it. It's a good one. So you can set up or your web page, all your events will automatically flow in here based on the date as well. So all this automatically happens. So if your events manager is creating events, it'll automatically go into this web page and be formatted without a web admin having to do anything. So we're reducing the workload for everyone. These are our sponsors. So these are the logos that we uploaded previously. These are the taglines that we dropped in in the org settings as well. Across the top here, we have a bunch of pages. So history pages, galleries, etc., etc. And I'll go through these in a moment. But we have a shop where you can sell all your merch. You can have all your events pages in here as well. So here's this Premiership 10-year reunion in here, etc., etc. So all of these events are automatically done for you. Same with the memberships. Whoops, this is not showing because I'm logged in already. So it goes into my particular membership section, and so on and so forth. Setting this up is relatively simple. So obviously you won't have all of this information in here. As you switch on modules, these ones here will turn up because these are automatically published because you've got some memberships created. If you don't call them memberships, you call them registrations, you can change the name of this menu here to registrations. You can have a cover image. You can say why purchasing a membership is a good idea, and all those sorts of things. And the same applies for events. So again, for events, if you don't call them events, you call them, I don't know, fundraisers or something. You can adjust the name here as well. So to set up a new page is pretty easy. For these top menu areas, we call these collections. So to set up a collection, which could be about the club or about us or something like that. So we can say about us, which is here. We can have a new page, and we call this the History 2 page. Oops, I should have made that a more specific name. We can drop in the page content. If you are more technically inclined, you can go far more technical with any of this. Again, you can adjust visibility here. So some football clubs have pages just visible to the board or just visible to coaches. You can do this here. So you can have pages that are only visible to administrators or only visible to a group like the board or the coaches, for example. So only they can see it in here. So you can set up all these pages and you can reorder them however you like within this area. If you try and keep it as simple as possible is always good. So the less collections or top menu items, the better. Like I said, most people are doing this on their thumb. So if you make it as simple as possible to get through to it, it's important. And if you look at the analytics of it, most people are just trying to find events, memberships, shop items, or whether their fixtures are. Which, speaking of, what we can also do is create external links. So for many of you, you want to create an external link that's going out to the Sports TG fixtures page or Sports TG ladder, because I know that was something that I'd frequent every week when I was playing. So you can set up these external links from your menu. So again, if I go here, where is it? This is an external link, and this will bounce me out to the ABC website, for example. So really easy to set up and spring people off to the Sports CG fixtures page, etc. We'll be doing another few sessions on web pages and transferring some clubs over. We've got a few clubs that want to move over, so we'll be doing some live recordings of that process and showing you how easy it is to just basically copy and paste a bunch of the information over from their existing systems, whether it's a Sports TG website or something else. It's really quite easy to connect it all through. There's obviously a bunch of settings with respect to the web page. Is it visible to search engines so people can find you and things like that? And just finally, you can use your own domain. It's a usual question that we get around this time. So you can use a custom web domain. So if you've got afloutereast.com as your domain name, you can set this up and point that domain to our servers. And so it'll, when you type that address in, it'll show you your TidyHQ webpage, which won't say TidyHQ, it'll just say your football club. So I think that could be where we leave it for the time being. Are there any specific questions at this stage, David?
No, I've answered them directly. So there's a couple of questions around how long will this recording of this webinar be available? And it will be available forever because it sits on the TidyHQ YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And the other question was around, which I believe we covered off at the start, which is around permissions and setting up committee members for visibility and access to different features.
Yep, great. Just finally, we've got tasks. So tasks is, as the president of the club, I know that I was always dishing out stuff to do. So tasks was something that I'd really focus in on because I need things done. So setting up a new task is relatively simple. They'll automatically get generated if you're setting up tasks in events or meetings. But setting up a new task is fairly simple. As an assignee, those roles that we set up at the very top of this webinar will all be here. So if you start typing in secretary, for example, you can assign a job to the secretary to report numbers to the league. For example, these are the participation numbers. And we can say when it's due, it repeats every year on the 30th of November. There's no end date, and we're going to send a reminder 5 days before the task is due. And we can save that. So that's setting up basically your succession plan as a secretary. I'm sure there's 20 things that you need to do every single year in pre-season, in-season, post-season. This way you can set all those sorts of things up. Marking them complete is just a matter of ticking these things off. And they'll go into the completed column over here. So you can see everything that's done. You can see what's due this month, what's overdue, if you want to get more specific, etc., etc. And tasks will automatically transfer over. So like I said, once Jordan resigns as president and David came in as president, all these tasks will automatically start being sent off to David, and reminders will be getting sent to David as well. Unless there's any more questions, I think we might wrap it up there, and we can go into some other sections at a future date. And I'm sure Aaron and the rest of the team at the league will be keen to hear what else there is that you'd like to cover. I'm really keen to run more of these. So if you've got some areas that you'd like to delve into and really focus in on, please let us know. And I'm more than happy to run some more of these as we go. Unless there's any more questions, we'll leave it there and let you get on with your lunch and hopefully get outside and enjoy some of this sunshine. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. See you next time.